Welcome to the Veterans in Politics Talk Show. Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, live stream on Facebook. Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sampson, Stephanie Phillips with another episode of Veterans in Politics. Today we have Alex Hubert, candidate for Clark County District Court, Department number 21. But before we get to Mr. Hubert, Ms. Phillips.
Thanks for joining us, everybody, and thank you to our sponsors. We have Dr. Ari Nagy. He's running for Congressional District 3. His website is nagyforcongress.com, and that's F-O-R, nagyforcongress.com. We also have Henderson's Mayor, Michelle Romero. She's running for re-election. Her website is votemichelleromero.com, votemichelleromero.com. We also have Cody K. Whipple. He's running for Congressional District 4. His website is codykforcongress.com, and that's the number 4, codykforcongress.com. We also have Dave Marlin. He's running for City of Las Vegas City Council, Ward 6. His website is daveforvegas.com, and that's F-O-R, daveforvegas.com. We also have Judge Jennifer Schwartz. She's running for re-election for Department 17. Her website is judgeschwartz.com, judgeschwartz.com. We also have George Harris. He is running for Senate District 8. His website is votegeorgeharris.com, votegeorgeharris.com. We also have Tim Ross with VGTHOG.org, and that is the Hangars Association up at North Las Vegas. If you would like to know more about them, jump on their website, VGTHOG.org. And we have our newest sponsor, Trent Richards, and his website is trentforjudge.com. Let me make sure that's right, Trent. Trentforjudge.com, and that is the number 4. And he is running in Henderson for Department 4. And also, Trent, we have your merch on. He is one of our endorsed candidates. Thank you so much. He gave us t-shirts, and you have these nice little bracelets. And also, I have your pin on. So thank you. I put it all on for you, Trent. But anyway, so did I get everybody? Gosh, Yep, I got everybody. Just wanted to make sure I didn't forget anybody. Also, don't forget to grab your copy of Steve's book, How to Navigate Nevada's Family Court System. If you are a family court litigant and you don't have an attorney, jump on Amazon, get your copy. It is $14.99. This is a self-help book, and it will help you navigate that system. Also, we have a merch store. It's VIPImerch.com, VIPImerch.com. We have all kinds of fun things for you to check out there. And also, we are done with our endorsement interviews. We wrapped them up on Saturday. Thank you, Lord. That was a long haul. It's a lot of work. But thank you to all the candidates who did take the time to show up and come and interview with us. And congratulations to all the endorsed candidates. For my rant, you guys probably saw it just came out a couple of hours ago. The Nevada Judicial Discipline Commission now has formally filed against Michelle Fiore, Judge Michelle Fiore, out in Pahrump. And what they are doing is absolutely, in my opinion, the most hypocritical thing. There is a letter. I want to read this to you. They're basically resurrecting all this same stuff from years ago, which Michelle was pardoned for. I think the Judicial Discipline Commission needs to look up the word pardon. Review what that means, because you guys are being super hypocritical. When Steve filed a complaint against Justice Herndon from years ago, you wrote him back a letter and you guys said, and this was from, what was that case, 1992?
Yeah, but the letter was last year.
Well, the letter was last year, but here's what you say. Nevada Judicial Discipline Commission. You guys said you didn't have jurisdiction over Justice Herndon because that was actions taken before he took the bench. Same thing with Michelle Fiore. You guys are trying to nail her for pre-bench actions. This was 2019, for which she was pardoned for. So those things it's as if that never even happened. But you keep resurrecting this. You keep doing this. To me, this is a witch hunt. To me, in my opinion, because you're doing the timing of this is just, right before the primary. You guys know what you're doing. To me, I think this is intentional because of the timing. But here's what you say. In your complaint, you allege that a judge committed misconduct as a prosecutor before becoming a judge. The commission, I quote, this is from you guys. The commission does not have jurisdiction over the conduct of judges licensed to practice law in the state of Nevada before they enter upon the duties of judicial office. And you continue and note the NRS. NRS 1.440, giving the commission jurisdiction over judges. What you're trying to go after Fiore for was before she took the bench. You guys are the biggest hypocrites in the whole entire state of Nevada. I do not know how you guys can keep going after and after and over and over. And besides, this complaint was not brought by somebody. This was brought by you. You guys started this in your own office. You initiated this action and a complaint. And guess what? A lot of those donors to Fiore, they support her. And you guys know you got way more letters of support for her. What'd she get? 179 letters versus what? 8 negative?
And don't forget the jurisdiction is 2 years.
Yeah, no, the statute of limitations.
The statute of limitations, sorry, is 2 years.
Also, the statute of limitations, 2 years. That's in there too. And this is what we're in 26. And you originally suspended her in 24. And all this was from when she was a councilwoman, and it was 2019. You guys have some serious problems. I think that is disgraceful. It is despicable. It is obvious what you're trying to do. It's all over the media, and it's right before the primary. I think it's terrible. But anyway, we're going to see this. I bet we're going to see this back at the Supreme Court. And I hope you guys get put in your place for being hypocrites.
Oh, thank you for that.
You're welcome. Did I forget anything?
No.
No.
But you know what? They said that
It's terrible.
They said in that same letter about the jurisdictional factor that it was 2 years for Herndon, right?
Statute of limitations.
Yeah, it was 2 years. Yeah, the statute of limitation was 2 years, and Fiore's thing was 5 years before she took the bench. So, I mean, I don't think they know how to do the math, but it is very hypocritical, though.
It is extremely hypocritical. They're telling you one thing. They don't have jurisdiction for pre-bench actions, but now all of a sudden they have jurisdiction over pre-bench actions for Michelle, only for Michelle Fiore, because they don't like her.
And that letter was written a month before they came up with the what they did with Judge Fiore.
Yeah.
It was only a month.
Wrong. It is
so
wrong.
In 30 days, all of a sudden, they changed their mind.
No, and all of a sudden, you cannot change the rules just because you want to target somebody or you want to go after somebody. You cannot do that. A pardon is a pardon. Look it up.
Thank you for that. Well, I just wanted to go over our last and final endorsements for 2026. And I want to thank all the panelists and the staff that was there, and all the candidates that showed up, and all the candidates that participated, and all those candidates that confirmed and backed out. You suck. But all the candidates that we endorsed and that we didn't endorse that day, for Friday, May 1st, there was 3 endorsements. David Gomez, trustee, Clark County School District D. Irene Bustamante Adams, trustee, Clark County School District F. And Paul Casey, trustee, Clark County School District G. And on Saturday, May 2nd, there was no endorsements for Boulder City Mayor, Boulder City Council, Henderson Mayor, and North Las Vegas Mayor. But there were endorsements for Carrie Cox, Henderson City Council Ward 3, Sherry Strotters, North Las Vegas City Council Ward 1, William E. Robinson II, North Las Vegas City Council Ward 3, Shannon Armstrong, Shannon Nordstrom, Las Vegas City Council Ward 2, and David Marlin, Las Vegas City Council Ward 6. So congratulations to all the candidates that were endorsed.
And thanks for all the shirts, and we're going to get to wearing all those. But thanks, guys.
We have to work our way through several shirts before the primary.
Yeah.
June 9th. But we have Alex Hubert. Mr. Hubert, how you doing today, sir?
Fabulous.
Thank you for coming out.
Absolutely.
Speaking of endorsements, do you want to?
Yeah, I was going to say that for later.
Oh,
at the end.
Okay.
And that way we could get in his bio and all that good stuff and harass him a little bit. Mr. Hubert, could you tell us about yourself, please?
I've been an attorney now for almost 20 years. I work for Clark County. I've been with the Public Defender's Office. Done a lot of work over my career with our therapeutic courts, which involves vets court, which wasn't always a thing, but once it came into existence, I was kind of involved in maybe being a bridge with helping deal with that, because we had a lot of folks that we were seeing coming in with cases.
You got a very low voice.
I know who were. And when I think I can think of one guy who was in Fallujah, and he ended up, because he had PTSD and he had a medical discharge and whatnot, and he had a lot of issues, but they were all service related. He didn't go in with them, and
but he came out with them.
Traumatic brain injury, PTSD. I mean, he had a lot of stuff, but he ended up committing, crimes, and it was very sad because he wasn't treated any differently than as if it was someone who could have had a sheet a mile long. It was just on their own volition going into pawn shops and committing crimes to support a substance abuse habit, which we deal with constantly. And so I'm heartened that that exists now, and the veterans issues, even though I'm not a veteran myself, as I alluded during the endorsement process, I'm the son of a psychiatrist who was the chief psychiatrist for the West Los Angeles VA Medical Center for 27 years. And so
you poor thing.
Yeah, no. And so we were very close, and I lost him literally
I'm so sorry.
a year after I graduated. So it's been 21 I was 27 years old.
Wow.
And then
what took him?
Glioblastoma brain tumor.
Aye.
And so it's just not much you can do. And he was the paragon of health. I mean, his parents lived into their 90s, but we had no unfinished business. We were incredibly close. I graduated early, so I spent that last year when he was diagnosed after I graduated, working with at-risk kids and in detention centers as a substitute, because in Phoenix, they had something called the Maricopa County Regional School District, which is specifically for, they call them schools of last resort. And so it was detention centers, it was teen moms, it was kids where it was school or jail, and no one wanted to do it because it was off-putting. And for me, kind of just my background, I found it interesting, and I was up for the challenge. So I could work as much as I wanted, but I had the flexibility to go to LA where he was with my mom, to be able to be available for medical appointments and what have you, and when there were little setbacks along the way. But it was, so I grew up around vets. I mean, and it's interesting because, when he started his career, I mean, it was guys that were going way, way back, in terms of, guys were in Korea, World War II. I mean, maybe in World War I for all I know. But a lot of Vietnam vets when I was growing up, that I would be around. And then
they smack you around?
They smacked me around, but I think they wished they were his son rather than me. So sometimes I had a little bit of a competition for his attention with the guys, some of his patients. But
how tall are you, by the way?
I'm 6'5".
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, he played freshman ball at Michigan, so he was a jock too. So that's the kind of the cool thing, is that it's like he was a musician. He's from Detroit, so he grew up, and he was a really fabulous pianist. And so he would have been 81, so he grew up when Motown was becoming a thing, and he played with Little Stevie Wonder and all the greats, and they co-wrote Tracks of My Tears in his living room. And so it's a trip. So that was sort of my role model, that you could be a professional but also have other interests and develop them. And so that's why the music thing with my guitar pick, and just to do things differently and just kind of make it my own. And so, and my daughter's in the performing arts very heavily, but it's a different path than me. She's an opera singer. So it's like a trip, because I was a rocker and she's studying opera, and it's just, it's neat. So that's sort of the family lineage. But yeah, Vegas, my daughter's 13. She's 5. Since you like the height stuff, she's 5'7". So.
Oh, wow.
So
she's a volleyball player?
No sports for her. I was into sports. I was good at sports, but she's kind of like my genetic clone. Same kind of.
Is that your only child? Is that your only child?
My only child. Okay. And so we had her later in life, and so my wife and I. And so yeah, it's been fabulous. And so I mean, but yeah, Vegas was not a place that we had any ties. Neither I or my wife. I mean, I went to school, undergrad in law school in Arizona, and took the bar there, and moved here 10 days later, and had to wait 6 months to take the Nevada bar. So I'm licensed in Arizona, and I've had a couple occasions to go there and represent folks. But yeah, I had to kind of make my way with a suitcase and just hustle and initiative and willing to work for free and just kind of find my way. That's why I have kind of a little bit of a different background. But here I am.
Are you done with your bio?
Oh, I can go. We can fill the whole hour if you like.
Oh. So, are you running against an incumbent?
I am.
Why is that?
I wanted to run a race that wasn't impacted. I wanted to run in a race where I knew that I would have the ability to go through this life experience and the process of running, which I've not done before, all the way through November. And so I needed a race that was going to be a one-on-one. And as you guys know better than I mean, the reality of judicial politics, since I was only interested in district court, was the races I would have to pick would likely be an incumbent. And it would be someone who wasn't drawing an opponent, because district court, has decided that they want to have all the seats up at the same time. So you can have 35 people or whatnot, all ready to jump in and challenge. And so, the answer is no. And that's why there's so many uncontested seats. But there was no obvious easy race there that made sense. And so for what I was interested in doing, which was to have this life experience at a minimum, because no one can control the result, that's why I picked an incumbent, but it wasn't because it was the grand plan. It's just, that's how it works out. Those are the races that typically don't draw opponents.
You came from the public defender's office, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Still there.
You're still at the public defender's office. How many jury trials have you personally handled?
I guess that's the other day. Probably jury trials between somewhere 7 to 10.
Okay.
Yeah. Jury, and especially nowadays trials, with all, like I mentioned, this holistic model, they call it, where it's moved more from a punishment to more of a rehabilitation model, with co-occurring court, which is the dual diagnosis program for substance abuse, mental illness, mental health court, veterans court, gambling court. It is a lot harder to end up in a prison now than it has ever been in my time. And it's like the system is geared, and also too with the turnover. There isn't the antipathy between our office and the DA's office the way it was when I started. When I started, like my first jury trial, I didn't do till I was 9 months in, and that was seen as like a long time. And there are a lot of lawyers in our office that they're 5 years in, they can't get a trial to go. And you know what? It's what's best for the client. Almost always, that's why it is. But like I did a trial a month ago, and we gave it our best shot. But he's probably going to get what we call trial taxed. He's probably going to get hit harder because we went to trial. And so it's a really weird place to be, where you want to get experience, especially for me as a supervisor with the young lawyers. But you're watching in real time almost the damage that's occurring because you're going through this process. And it's like, I don't agree with it, but it's just, how do you get experience doing something you've never done? But
I think sometimes they make deals way too easily. They're too light on crime, and some of these people get away with murder, so to speak. It's some of the deals that come out of there is stunning.
Sure. No, and it's an imperfect system. There's such a volume that I think that there can be a tendency to want to just get cases moving, and it's very arbitrary. And that's probably one of the maddening things is the same case, if it lands with a different prosecutor or the combination of defense lawyer, prosecutor, judge, you would have a very different outcome. Mm-hmm. And, I've got a case coming up where I'm pretty fond as a lawyer to client of this guy. He's young. I have a lot of sympathy for his circumstance. He's very charming. He's well spoken, but his case has got some pretty egregious facts. But he landed in a department and has a prosecutor who is going really hard. And so it's hard because a part of me wants to say, well, I don't agree with how heavy-handed this is going to be, so I'm going to grind back. But at the end of the day, how far can I go when the facts are what they are? It's not a great case from our standpoint. And so you get sort of stuck in that world. And so, no, you're right, though. The system, for better or worse, it definitely is geared towards, and if you look at the stats, it is geared towards negotiating cases and moving them. Yeah. And, there's some philosophical, things that can be done to maybe, the reality is, if you want people I'm going to have to play prosecutor or that side, because that's really what you're talking about, because they make the deals. We don't make the deals.
Yeah.
If you're having to deal with tons of cases, a good handful of which are not relative to what exists in the criminal justice system, the crimes of the century, but you're bogged down in like a like a hoopty that's being passed around, from attic to attic. It's a car. I mean, if the car's blown out, it is what it is. But you have a bunch of those possession of stolen vehicle cases. It's like, if that wasn't something you really had to deal with, or if you're able to get rid of that early on, maybe that would give you more time to put more energy into the more serious cases.
Mm-hmm.
But when the serious case is lumped in with the cases that aren't particularly serious, and you end up just growing the amount of cases you're responsible for as a DA, and then us and the private bar, it's hard. I mean, you're one person. And so I understand the pressures that the DAs are under, but they're the ones that ultimately control how many cases get filed. Not everything that gets submitted gets approved. And
True.
So, historically, Clark County has a very high file rate. So if you file everything, the downside perhaps of that is you bog your folks down to where they don't have the time and the psychic energy to be able to focus on, go hard on the cases that you would say really deserve it.
Yeah.
So the bad cases don't get hit as hard, and it becomes lumped in with everything because it's a casualty of the volume. And so that's what burns a lot of ways. It's very hard to do our side where you're trying to be, because you're representing a person, you're trying to be there for everybody. But when it's just the numbers add up, it's hard to be, spread yourself thin sometimes.
And how do you defend somebody that is guilty? Or how does that, and especially looking at some of the things that some of them do, or I mean, how does that work in your mind?
The psyche of how you
Yeah.
represent. Before I started, I actually did the prosecutor clinic in law school. And when I moved here and didn't know anybody, I had my Arizona license. I just got word I passed that bar. I called the district attorney's office because that was sort of the logical extension of what I did. This would have been in 2005.
Oh, so you had, was it David Roger at that time?
Correct. Yeah. And so I called, who then the head of the criminal division was Christopher Lawley. But I got the name off the internet. I didn't know who anyone was. I wasn't a UNLV guy. So I called, and this was right when everyone moved from the old courthouse into the RJC. They had just moved in. And so I called and said, "Hi, I'm Alex. I'm licensed in Arizona, but I'm not a law student. But I would be willing to volunteer and lend my services, free." Did not hear back. Waited 3 weeks, called again. Did not hear back. So then I called the public affairs office. And that day they called me and said, "Come on down." And the picture on my ID my work ID, is the picture from the day I started volunteering. And it was interesting because of the mental health background and stuff. What I could do to be of service was to go into the detention centers and work with guys that were really struggling. And maybe there was something they really needed to accept as a negotiation because it was in their best interest, but they couldn't get past a personality conflict with their lawyer, or the fact that, they were more difficult, just because of their diagnosis, for example. And so having a sensitivity to that because of my background, that kind of became my calling card. It's like I could deal with the most difficult clients. And so I would go in and bond with them. And that was sort of, so being kind of like social workers, psychiatrists, playing, masquerading as a lawyer almost, that became kind of a bit of my orientation. And the reality is the jails are treating probably 75%, if not more, of the mentally ill and drug addicted folks in our community. It takes going into a detention center to get help, and it shouldn't be that way. But that's the default position that has risen, and that's not unique to Vegas. And so we've become the backstop for dealing with addicts. People who aren't committing violent crimes, people who just genuinely are struggling. They're abused and they get into addiction. It's like they're highly sympathetic as people, and yet because of the lack of community mental health resources, because of the lack of substance abuse programs in the community and being able to qualify to be accepted, if you're Medicaid, if you don't have Medicaid, they end up in the detention centers. And the jail was never designed to be the front line for mental health diagnosis and treatment, substance abuse diagnosis and treatment, and nor was the justice system. So we, as the people who inherit those folks that end up in the system, I think having an orientation towards keying in on that. So to answer your question, I'm less concerned with what they did. I'm more concerned with what's going on that led them to commit the offense that they're charged with. And especially if they're coming back over and over again, it's like, can we address potentially the issue that hasn't been addressed? And so it's more about the intervention. So I don't get caught up in do I think they did it or do I not? Because truthfully, that wouldn't be appropriate. Because if I was only going to try for who I, Alex, think is innocent or I'm deeply offended, I mean, that's not the job. That's not the role that I'm charged with. It's to look at the evidence, because the truth is there are people who are morally guilty. They've committed the crime. If the good Lord came down and said, I saw what happened. But if the evidence isn't there, they could walk. And there are people who genuinely did not commit a crime. But the story that they're stuck confronting, when you have people who are convinced it's him, and are you willing to risk your freedom to go say, well, but I know in my heart I'm innocent. That's so, it is very morally ambiguous, this type of work, because in that situation where you believe him and he's credible and you think he's innocent, but the way the evidence and the story looks and how it's going to play, and maybe they have priors and they can't testify without having to deal with confronting their past, which means they're going to trial with one arm behind their back. Are they willing to risk all that in the name of righteousness? I mean, it's just, and so, yeah, I mean.
Most people aren't.
No,
but
and
some are.
Some are. And I will tell you that, until you start doing it, and I got a good preview of that when I was a volunteer going into the jails, working with the mentally ill guys and whoever. I mean, it's a very different phenomenon to be in the system, sitting down with somebody. You're reading a police report, so it's kind of impersonal because it's words on paper. You don't know the people. And it's really more like you have kind of like an internal checklist of what you're trying to identify. What does the record look like? What are they charged with? What are we ultimately trying to accomplish? And so getting caught up in this is offensive or these are terrible facts, I mean, that's not what your role is, to get caught up in that part. That's what the public gets caught up in. And frankly, the judge can get caught up in that. And the scorn of the public, they can get caught up in that. But when you're us, it's, I had a guy who had about a third of his brain intact. And he was committing crimes. I mean, my position wasn't that he was just, let's just forgive and forget. I mean, it was a sexual assault case. It was very violent. But if you're going to have a competency standard, if you're going to say, is this person well enough to actually stand trial? And what I had to do to prove that you couldn't restore him with medication or with whatnot, that this was literally brain damage from being shot at 18 in the head when he was gangbanging 15 years earlier in the Bronx. I called up Desert Radiology and said, hey, I work for the PD. We have no money. I played that card and said, how much would you charge me for an MRI? And they said, we'll do it for $500. So I got the approval and I got a court order and they took him from the jail. And when we got the imaging, it was like way more severe, the damage, than we thought. And this isn't spin. This isn't me saying, hey, I really think he's got issues. I mean, this is quantifiable. This is the radiology report. I went the extra mile. I don't think it had been done before, but that's an example.
What do they do with people like that when they're convicted, or do they just not sit through trial? I mean, what happens to those people?
And then that gets to be very interesting, because it's like I'm now not focused on it, and I'm not really thinking about what the allegations are. I'm thinking about if we're going to have a competency system, and it's not going to be just lip service and a sham. And I've now gone to the point of actually showing you the imaging where this guy, I mean, he had a scar from ear to ear. I mean, they opened his head up. I mean, he had a craniotomy. I mean, you're telling me that this guy is well enough to go sit through a jury trial and he could be cross-examined? Because that's the standard. If you're going to find someone competent, that the presumption is they would be able to get up on a witness stand. I'd be able to, if they were my witness, I'd be able to direct them and ask them questions, and they would be able to have rational answers. They would be able to really assist me in their defense with coherent answers and coherent. And that was not the reality of the situation. But because the case was serious, there was a lot of just, we don't want the consequence of if we determine that he is permanently incompetent, like we can't restore him to competence because of those deficits, then the case gets dismissed. But here's the big kicker.
What happens when the case is dismissed?
And how come they don't send him to a facility, an institution, and lock him up there?
Steph, you read my mind. I mean, that was, you got the next step. So the mechanism would be, if that were the case, is to civilly commit him. So he would go for probably a minimum of 10 years. Which is what the charge at the time carried. He would have gone to a psychiatric facility. Kind of like, and so my argument wasn't just set him free. There are no guilty people. Hey, let's let bygones be bygones. It was putting him through a trial as a farce. This is, I mean, if we're actually going to say that we have a real competency system, but I'm not saying there's a mechanism. He belongs in a facility, not in a prison. And so that became the fight. And so my righteousness and where my intervention lied wasn't in, did he is it really a deadly weapon? Was it over 3 inches long? I mean, that was not the cops and robbers part of what it became. It was more about, he clearly has massive deficits. So let's not pretend it doesn't exist. Let's treat this system that we have, that it's actually credible. And even though it's very scary and offensive, the facts, I mean, the proof's in the pudding. I mean, this is proof of his impairment, but let's have him spend his time in a psych hospital and not put him through a trial and treat him like a totally rational actor.
But he's locked up either way because
Correct.
somebody like that is a danger to society.
But they didn't have the courage to actually find him incompetent and put him in a psych facility. So I was forced to go forward as if this was just a regular old trial and go to him and say, hey, they're offering kidnapping or attempt sex assault. I mean, like I had to, so now I'm for, and the crazy part is when I'm advocating with and cross-examining the doctors, which at that time, the only psych facility for the criminally accused was up in Sparks. It was called Lakes Crossing. Mm-hmm. And we actually had to sue because guys were sitting in CCDC for so many months that were found incompetent to go up there. That's how Stein was built, is because were successful in advocating for that. So, I mean, I'm cross-examining them, and I'm basically, in a sense, with him sitting right next to me, talking about how sick he is and how he can't be allowed to participate in trial because he's too messed up, right? And so he's listening to his lawyer basically talking about how crazy he is. And so and he was paranoid and delusional. So now I'm part of the delusion. I'm now part of the coming to get him. So the relationship fractured. Part of the problem. No. And now I'm part of I'm part of the narrative of the witch hunt. And then, so not only did they, which had to happen, I mean, I had to go there. But once they found him competent, because they just didn't want to deal with the consequences of what it would mean to not find him competent, I'm supposed to turn around and tell him, hey, look, man, nothing personal. I did what I had to do, but we're still boys. The kid was 4 years old to me, 4 years of fighting over his competency. We're still boys. Let's go to trial and forgive and forget a guy who's clearly sick. All the things you just watched me advocate for, I'm basically saying he's so sick he can't participate in this process, and he's so suggestive. There's no conflict of interest there. And so, I mean, that's the fun part about doing this, especially these interviews and stuff, and I feel like I almost become an ambassador for our office because it's like there's so many perception of what we are, and look, there are a lot of lawyers that have no
business being lawyers.
No, they're not oriented. They're not interested in the substance abuse issues. They're not interested in the mental health issues. And the reason I harp on that is they're going to be there and there is almost no case where there isn't one or both acting. You're self-medicating because there's an undiagnosed mental. I mean, it is so pervasive. I mean, there's not a lot of people who are completely sober, completely have sound mind who decide to go run out and go rob a bank. I mean, that's not the reality. And especially our clients, because they don't come from means, a lot of unsophisticated backgrounds. A lot of times there's no family structure. And if there is, this is way too high concept dealing with these complex issues. And so if you're not at all interested in that, and that's not something as a defense lawyer you have any sort of interest in, it could be a real grind to do this job because that's going to be there and what you're going to have to deal with, whether you want to deal with it or not. So I'm lucky in the sense that I came into it with very, very sober that was going to be the job. And that's partly why I chose that job. But yes, the doing of my job is not the jailhouse doors fly open and everyone goes free. And it's, the sort of stereotypical view of what being a defense lawyer is. Because there's people who watch television. They see what, if you can talk slick enough and if you're clever enough that somehow you're going to magically,
that is
pixie dust the jury and it's all going to work out. I mean, there are always flukes, but that's why that's television and I have to live in the real world.
Well, I'm glad you brought up perceptions because I was going to have you tell the voters out there that are going to see this because people do have perceptions of PDs that you are going to be light on crime. And then the prosecutor side, they're going to be tough on crime as a judge. So talk about that perception and how you would be as a judge.
I believe in fairness. I believe in justice. I think you can have a good heart. I think you can be kind, but I also think that you can be tough and you can hold people accountable. And what you have to understand is it's that my job is to be a zealous, literally the charge of being a defense lawyer is to be a zealous advocate. That's the terminology, which means everything that is within the ethical bounds to be as hardcore and hammer as much as I can on behalf of my client. It's a different rationale for the state, it's can they prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. We have different sort of, like, I guess just I'd say charges of what we're responsible for. And so that is what I'm paid to do. That's what I signed up to do. And the irony is being good at it and being passionate about it has hurt me in this process, because I meet with DAs and I meet with them, not the ones I know them all. I mean, so the ones that know me and know kind of my heart and who I am. I mean, I'll be very curious what they do at the actual voting booth. But when it comes to badges and when it comes to endorsements, yeah, I mean, it's tough to walk in and just see the light go out of their faces when they hear the public defender thing, because they go right to that place of like, I'm a non-starter because, oh, I must just be just this weeping, you know,
you're going to let everybody go.
But the truth is, you know, prosecutors don't have contact with the criminal population. They get police reports and the investigations come from the police, and they walk the police officers and their witness through a script that someone else has prepared. And that's called the police report. They deal with victims, but we also have access to victims that they want to let us. The victim has the absolute right to talk to me. And so we have the unique perspective, but they're not allowed, the state, to have access to our clients unless a real special situation. So the irony is the police pick them up and then they hand them to me. And so we have this odd sort of symbiotic relationship where it's like, I'm the one you're delivering them to. And so when it comes to ultimately every judge, no one has a crystal ball. Everyone's trying to make sense out of it, do the best of sort of a educated guess about what they should do when it comes to like sentencing. Well, is this person worth the resources? Are they likely to succeed if we put them on probation? Well, the one advantage I have is having represented thousands of those people and having looked at thousands of criminal backgrounds and psychosocials and their circumstance. Do they have an intact family structure? Are they in a relationship? Are they employed? All these things, and having represented people and seeing where the ones that didn't make it and seeing the ones that did. I think that it would serve me very well at being able to make a good determination of who's worth taking, maybe, I don't want to say risk, but who's worth sort of betting on if we're going to give a shot, versus the ones where all you're hearing is they don't want to go to prison. And so the defense is doing the best they can, but it's just basically throwing up everything they can because it's not a credible argument for probation. It's just not. And we know because of if you guys are familiar with the pre-sentence, the PSIs and the pre-sentence report, it's like, I can read it and it's kind of going to tell me what I need to know. And so, and being a judge is not being a public defender, nor is it being a prosecutor, nor is it being a police officer, nor is it being, you know, a civil rights marcher. I mean, it's like ideologues I don't feel should be on the bench. You are to be as dispassionate as you can be. You're not there to be an advocate. You're there to, you know, interpret evidence. You're there to, you know, apply the law and do your best. Like I said during the endorsement process, you know, when you ask guys the question, well, how do you stay neutral? How do you do it? And one answer is to say, well, the ethical rules, guide my decisions. I mean, you can give the fluff answer. Or you say, look, we all are a byproduct of our collective life experience. We're human beings. No rule is going to transcend that. And as long as you know that, and you have biases, some of which you don't even realize you have, they could be subconscious. You could have been a victim of an incident in college, and then the person that's standing there looks like the guy who attacked you. Mm-hmm. And it's triggering stuff and feelings, and it just, you don't mean for it to be that way, but you're getting kind of, I mean, if you acknowledge that those things are real, then at least the best you can do is try to strive to be as neutral and as centrist as possible. And you know what? You're going to end up probably falling center left, center right. And I think you can live with that. But what you don't want are the bookends, where it's someone up there there are no guilty.
You're called radical.
Well, yeah. And that's not, I don't think, appropriate. But the reality is there are those people on the bench. And
Sorry, there wasn't much yelling in your house growing up.
Yelling in my house?
Yeah.
You know, my dad was he could be tough. I mean,
Really? He was a psychiatrist, right?
He was a psychiatrist.
They're usually very soft-spoken.
No, he was. I mean, he yet again, like, he is someone where if you were to look at him and he would walk in right now, you wouldn't go, "Oh, I bet you're a psychiatrist." I mean, if anything, he could have been Doc Hollywood. I mean, he had the looks of a movie star, and he was tall. He had a lot of presence. He was very articulate and very comfortable public speaking. I mean, he could have been treating Beverly Hills housewives, but that's not what he chose to do. He chose to, you know, that the mantra of just because you're indigent or don't have means doesn't mean you don't deserve quality care. I mean, I think he kind of dug. I mean, when he played high school basketball in inner city Detroit, he was the varsity level in the division that he played in, which was the highest division, the biggest schools. And they played schools like Southeastern. I mean, so he was the only white player.
Wow.
So to have the kind of the chutzpah to go in there, because that was him. He had an older brother that, kind of toughened him up, but it was like he got off, I think, a little bit on the thought, like, I'm going to go into these environments. And it was fascinating because they would hit him with all these terms and slang, and just, he get hit with, epithets, whatever you want to call it. But that was kind of like, I can hang, and that was that he had that ability to be tough and fearless. And so, no, I mean, he was a very interesting person to model your life after. And so, and his work with veterans.
Monotone voice you have.
Well,
great temperament for the bench.
Yeah. So before we end this, what's your judicial philosophy?
My judicial philosophy is that ultimately, because as you guys know, my donor base is comprised of friends, people who believe in what I'm about, know me, and believe in that I be good at the job. I'm beholden to no one, and that's kind of my character anyway. I mean, no one's going to be able to buy me or force me into anything. But so at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I think is right, and what I think is fair, and what I think is just. I mean, the golden mean is sort of what I always strive for. I mean, even as a public defender, I mean, my whole thing is I've been able to get, I think, pretty good results over the years because I pick good battles and I make credible arguments, and it isn't the extremes. And so the reality is, as a judge, I mean, being able to sort of, if I'm hearing extremes from both sides, I know that the reality is probably going to be somewhere in the middle. But the reality is there are going to be cases that are egregious and offensive, and it does warrant a more heavy-handed sentence, for example. And in civil is a whole other world, but it just, the beauty of this is that if it doesn't work out, I wake up the next day and I go to work and keep doing what I've been doing for the last 20 years. And then, I have 5 years left if I want, and then I could retire and then go do something else. And so this isn't defining my life. I waited till very late in the game to actually run for judge. I could have run at 10 years, and I'm 20 years. I actually have more legal experience than my opponent, even though I think I'm a little younger. But it's because, she was a police officer, then she did some civil law after law school. But it's a different gig. And so, I mean, that's the beauty of it, is I can do the right thing because it's the right thing. Because, I mean, as you guys know, I mean, my picture isn't on the wall. I didn't hire you and get your endorsement because I cut you a check. I mean, the reality is I had to make it on merit. When I sat there with your panel of veterans, yes, I had a bit of an advantage because of my background, because I can speak thoughtfully about issues highly relevant to veterans. But the point is, that's the entire candidacy is based on merit. No, there is no campaign manager calling a union and putting their thumb on the scale for me. I mean, the AFL-CIO one I just got, and that was a really flattering that they picked me. But that was based on purely me presenting and them appreciating what I'm about. Because, it's very easy to stick with the incumbent who's got a war chest that's absurdly huge. And, I mean, so in that sense, that's why, I mean, I have look, you guys, I mean, it's obviously philosophically the PD thing is like probably not going to be totally your own bag kind of, but it's like, you didn't hold that against me. And it shouldn't be. We should be able to have adult conversations and thoughtful conversations. And just because look, the reality is I'm more of a Democrat than I would be a Republican. Okay? I'm a center left. But I mean, so what? At the end of the day, it doesn't affect my ability to help people and have conversations. I mean, the reality is I've done a lot of Republican events because this is technically nonpartisan.
We're going a little bit over time, but I wanted, sorry I had to.
No.
But I wanted, I could see now why the panel chose you
I appreciate
to be endorsed. And
thank you for saying that, by the way, about our panel and then you not paying us, because there are those out there that make up all this
lies,
nonsense and lies. So thank you for saying that.
But
I mean, it's and that's the thing. I mean, that's what's fascinating is the ones that I have received. It's like I said, it's based on whatever I'm about has resonated. And so, yes, I can say without a shadow of a doubt.
I think I dropped this somewhere.
I was going to say, what happened to that?
No, I got a little
that corner
scraped. But you weren't at the endorsement ceremony.
I wasn't. I couldn't make it, but it looked fabulous.
Yeah. So I want to present this to you on this show, and it says, Alex Hubert, candidate for Clark County District Court 21. This endorsement is awarded in acknowledgement of demonstrated dedication to the Constitution, respect for the rule of law, judicial temperament, professional excellence, and commitment to fairness for the citizens of Clark County. We recognize and support Alex Hubert as a candidate who upholds the principles of honor, accountability, and service to our community. Presented this day, 21st day of February 2026.
All right.
Congratulations
Thank
to you,
you,
sir.
It's very thoughtful.
And there you go. And here's a bag. And
Sorry, I'll just chew on the other side so we can kind of even it out.
Yeah, it looks like the dog got a hold of it.
yeah, you, Mark is going to zoom in on you, and then you could close and you could say whatever you want. Maybe you got an event coming up. Direct people to your website. Direct people to your website or what have you. Your point of contact, and let folks know why they should go and vote for you. Maybe you want to do a comparison between you and your opponent, and you're going to go right to the general election, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
If you want to learn about me, my website is www.electalexhubert.com. It's actually a really pretty informative and comprehensive website, not just a clip art and a paragraph and a donate button. It's pretty cool, and so I'm very proud of it. And that would give you some insights into my background, my family, my resume, essentially. If you want to contemporaneously follow along with what I'm doing, I have a pretty heavy Instagram presence, and that's also at @electalexhubert. We're getting a lot of really interesting traffic, and I put out the endorsements, I put out what I'm doing, and try to be as inclusive and have as big a tent as possible. And so, yeah, I mean, the reality is because the media doesn't choose to really cover judicial politics in earnest. I mean, the print newspapers, I mean, it's a little phone call, and then they make an endorsement, and there's some questionnaires. It's incumbent on the voter to have to self-educate. And that's why, unfortunately, it's hard to pick judges, because it's where you get the information. And so I'm not here to bash anybody. The reality is my opponent and I are very different. And that was part of, I think, the appeal of running, is also so that there can be a contrast. You know, you don't want to run against someone where you look in the mirror and you're looking at your twin. And so it's like, we're very different. We come from different backgrounds. We have different philosophies. I like to think that I have a more even judicial temperament. I'm more suited. You know, I'm very tall, because I know Steve's into my height. I'm very tall, and being 6 foot up on the bench, I'll have a lot of presence. I've been through the wars. I've represented thousands of people, and I'm in court 4 days a week. And so there's not a lot at this point that I haven't seen. And so I can't be pushed around. I can't be bullied. I can't be bought. And at the end of the day, you know, this is not an ego trip. This is, for what will be the twilight of my career, I think a wonderful extension of what my career has been, which has been in public service. I gave my youth to public service. I mean, I don't get those years back. You know, I didn't give it to try to make money and to try to maximize the way I look and how I present and speak, and to make as much as I could. So, you know, I think that says something. And so at the end of the day, I believe I'm highly credible and competent to do the job, but I hope that, you know, people will take the time to look into both of us and, you know, come to their own thoughtful conclusion, rather than just what name they like better or who's first on the ballot, or, you know, which sadly, you know, because people just don't know. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's hard to fault them when they just don't know about the judges. We try. So that's why I'm glad there are opportunities like this, especially for me, who's not the institutional candidate, so that at least I can get my messaging out there. Because, yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hubert.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Folks, that's Alex Hubert, candidate for Clark County District Court, Judge Department 21. And I just want to reiterate that he is endorsed by Veterans in Politics International, Armed Forces Chamber, and Nevada Veterans Association. And that's what it says right here.
Tomorrow.
And I just want to let folks know, whether you live in Mount Charleston or Laughlin, Prim, or Boulder City, or Mesquite, go to the voting booth and vote for this man. He will make a big difference on the bench. This is Steve Sampson, Stephanie Phillips of Veterans in Politics. Until next time.
Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, live stream on Facebook.